Today, we are bringing to you a very important session in our forum, Event Sustainability Conclave. This session is titled as the practical outlook towards sustainability in events. Well, friends, sustainability has become very relevant in today's times as we are seeing the trend post-COVID that sustainability and environment concerns are on the rise and they are becoming increasingly significant in the coming times. So, in today's session, we have with us some extremely experienced gentlemen. I have with me Mr. Nitin Sachdeva, who is the president elect of SITE, and he's also the CEO of Venture Marketing in India. I have with me Mr. Rajiv Kohli, who is the joint managing director of Creative Travel India and beyond. And I have with me Mr. Naveen Rizvi, who is the executive director of ICE. So, thank you, gentlemen, for joining in today's exclusive session on sustainability. In this session, we are going to ask you some key questions regarding sustainability. Is it just a keyword or is it really an important issue that is requiring some serious prioritable action around it? We are also going to talk about if it is a cost, then what is the cost to offset it? We are going to talk about your clients, what they have to say about sustainability. We are going to speak about the practical solutions according to you that are going to drive the future of events regarding sustainability. And we are going to also understand from you some examples, some case studies, or some insights from your recent projects where you have seen or you have been inspired from some sustainable measure on site. So thank you for joining in. I would like to start with Mr. Nitin Sachdeva. Nitin, please tell me about more about sustainability. How do you feel about it when you go on site on different events, when you implement projects? What is your take on this word sustainability? Is it just a buzzword or really action has to be really seen on ground up?
Well, thank you, Raghav. Thanks a lot for having me on this particular session. I think sustainability is a very dear subject, and both from the perspective of events and also from the perspective of the association that we represent, SITE, Society of Incentive Travel Excellence. I definitely believe that sustainability is definitely more than a buzzword. In the events industry, it reflects the growing demand of responsible practices that reduces environmental impacts. Well, attendee clients, now they expect to align with sustainable values and making it a key consideration for event planning and execution. It's becoming like a non-negotiable. It's like, talking directly into their brand, and that's what they value a lot. And I see a lot of, stuff that is happening around sustainability. So I definitely feel that it's more than just a buzzword, to be honest.
Going to Mr. Rajiv Kohli. Rajiv ji, you have been in the industry since many decades now, and we all understand that as a private entity, we are aiming for profits in our events, in our ventures, in our projects, be it any aspect of MICE activity. What I want to understand is that if we implement measures around sustainability, it attracts certain costs. Now, what is the cost to offset it? Is it more than the cost we are putting in, or in the long run, we are going to have reap benefits as a private player?
So thank you, Raghav. I will slightly differ with Nitin, however, because as a practicing MICE professional, I do think, unfortunately, sustainability is more of a word and less people put it in practice rather than people are not walking the talk. And that's sad. Many are trying. Back in 2012, when I did my first site event, when I joined the board, I was told to speak on green meetings. And I did a lot of research back then. And it was surprising that the question you asked me right now was a question that was asked back then. Green meetings are more expensive to do, and sustainability does have a cost. But what has changed over the years versus back a decade ago is that more and more suppliers are adopting, I'm going to call responsible practices. There's a difference between being sustainable and responsible, and I think responsible is a far more overarching and perhaps a more appropriate word. More and more supplying partners are adopting responsible practices. Hotels are using refillable bottled water. Clients are more conscious on food wastage. I personally have been more uh, receptive to being more responsible in how I behave ever since the pandemic when I did things I'd never done before. And I was told by some friends in the venture business I need to start using refillable water bottles. So small things, and as they say, little grains of sand and little drops of water make the mighty ocean and the beaches. Um, it is a cost. I don't think our industry is aware enough, exposed enough to explain the benefits of the cost. And I don't think we, as clients, have suppliers who are telling us what alternative options can be and if there's a cost. So it's a much larger story. Will clients buy the cost? Perhaps. If you explain to them the reasons why, how, and what they will get to. Global companies have initiatives towards sustainability. They have mandates towards sustainability. The SGD 17 is important, but I don't think our industry in India is ready to provide the support needed to meet those goals. So is it a cost? Yes. Will clients buy the cost? Yes. Do we know how to explain the cost? No.
And this has actually thrown many points into this discussion. And moving into Mr. Naveen, Naveen, what is your take on sustainability? And the previous two speakers have, I mean, given their viewpoints, and Mr. Kohli has a little bit slightly different point of view when it comes to seeing actual sustainability and actual measures on ground. So, what is your take on this?
Sustainability is a very key aspect now. And the way the climate change is happening and the way the issues have been raised in the global forums. So sustainability plays a very vital role going forward. It's already started. Earlier, what used to happen when we used to get requests for inbound incentive groups, then they used to talk about this kind of CSR activities and activities related to sustainability. But now even the Indian corporate clients have this awareness. They are talking about these things. So things have really changed over the years. And I would like to quote here the entire G20 process was all about sustainability. There was not even a single flex used in the entire event across India. So the mandate was very, very clear. It was a diktat, very clear diktat that we have to use only fabric. We can't use any kind of flex for any meeting. So the trend is changing, and even Indian corporates, because the same multinationals who operate abroad, they are putting a lot of practices even in India now. So what I've seen in last 6 7 years, the trend is really changing on this part, and it will continue to grow because right now the climate change is a big concern. Now you see we are in December in Delhi, and still there are no winters. It's quite pleasant. What used to happen when I was in school and college days. So I think it's a very serious issue. And as an individual, if people are not understanding, it's our moral responsibility also to educate them and tell them, guide them. And those clients who don't understand the importance of this, it is our responsibility also. And that we should educate them, we should teach them that see how it is important. It is slightly little expensive as compared to flex if we go to the fabric one, for example, because that's a real waste. The entire flex system is a wastage. So yes, there are certain things, but yes, people have started understanding it, and I'm quite confident that the more awareness has been created, because nowadays even school children have been taught that about the environment protection and everything, which was not there maybe during our time when we were in school.
Absolutely. And you mentioned about a significant point regarding the government's G20 events, where you got a strict mandate that you have to use fabric instead of flex, which is a very derogatory product for the environment. So this is just one step towards this direction. And Mr. Kohli mentioned about water being used, the plastic bottle being replaced by maybe glass bottles at events. These are small initiatives, but I think much more needs to be done in this regard. Nitin, you have been visiting different forums, different countries, and you have been seeing how different tourism boards are promoting sustainability. What is your take on this? How governments are pushing the issue, and what remains to be done in a country like India, where mostly private organizers are implementing various events for themselves and even for the government?
Raghav, I was actually coming on to this point when Mr. Kohli mentioned about, what is happening in India, and I tend to agree with him on areas where things can be done differently. When I work with international destinations a lot, I can give you two examples. One is one of my clients is Thailand, and they have been doing a lot on sustainability. Farm to table. Having using local produce to make sure that there's less carbon emissions, and in fact they also created venue standards where they actually certified more than 750 venues in Thailand. And we have a list of green venues which are developed on a standard and a criteria developed by TCEP, which was then adopted by the ASEAN countries, and it became the ASEAN standard for sustainability and green venues. I mean, a lot has been done. I mean, specifically led by the government, and the recently acquired client that we had, Adelaide, from Australia. Australia does a lot in terms of sustainability and protection of the environment, and I think everybody knows what they do. And talking about Naveen's point, he's absolutely right. The Indian corporate, especially going outbound, is very aware of sustainability as a practice. And in fact, I can tell you, working with multiple organizations overseas and multiple governments overseas, there is a big importance on sustainability, wherein even if overseas destinations, when they pitch in for Indian customers to do their events in their countries, and they have like maybe financial or non-financial support, they actually push people to do these sustainable activities. Like, for example, if you're using a hotel which is near the BTS station, so that you are using less transportation, is it walking distance? Are you using a digital registration system and no paper to print? Is it like a QR code that you have on your phone and you have a system that can identify your face and facial recognition stuff? Like, I mean, all of that stuff. Of course, there is a cost to it, but again, I mean, it reduces waste considerably. And food waste, as Mr. Kohli mentioned, is a big issue which people are solving with farm to table projects, and then of course also making sure that they are using local produce and vegetarian plant-based produce to really offset carbon emissions. And I just want to highlight one of the biggest thing that I saw working with one of my clients, which is Thailand, is they actually had a carbon emission calculator. So when they give support, they actually give you a calculator, you enter your details, and you get a certification, which the corporate can keep, and the agency can keep, that they organize the green meeting, and it's certified by Thailand Convention and Exhibition Bureau, signed by the president, which actually comes from the top down, which is the government, and the government has to lead the initiative, which I believe India can learn from all their friends. We have more friends than ever before. I guess, that knowledge exchange on the convention side or the exhibition side can happen easily, because we have so many associations collaborating. Like, for example, the Indian Exhibition Industry Association, or site, or any other association that is working on an event subject. They have enough information to feed into the government. It's just that how do we actually give them a framework which actually works for the whole country and approved by the government. That would be my take.
I mean, you would like to add something to it?
Yes, I would like to add what Nitin said. I think when he's talking about Thailand, I have a practical example. Nitin, a few years back, if you remember, Royal Cliff, and after that successful big event, the Royal Cliff, which is in Pattaya, they gave us a plant with the green certificate, and stating that how they negotiated the carbon footprints for that kind of an event. I think this initiative I haven't seen anywhere in India as of now. No hotel or a convention center have started giving these kinds of certificate to the organizers. And I think, which is like a perfect example, I think we should all learn from Thailand. And I, being a client for a big hotel, I myself experienced this, what Nitin is saying. So I think if in India also our convention centers or the conference venues have started doing all these things, I think it will really help. A lot of time they talk about that, yes, the building is a green building and all these things, but I don't know whether if anybody has got it as a client, these kinds of things from any hotels. I'm happy to learn about it. But yes, this is what we have seen it in Thailand, of course.
So, the next question that I would like to address is that is it too little, too late? Because as we are already seeing such deterioration in our environment, already so much pollution in a country where we are staying, India, which is one densely populated and one of the most populated, polluted regions of the globe. Is it too little, too late, or there are more things which we can do to enhance or attract foreign investors and foreign destinations to look at India as a role model? Rajiv, what is your take on this?
It's never too late. Okay, we're late, but then we're not late alone. The entire globe is late. I mean, Naveen, I'm still using the fan at night and air conditioning in the car. It's never been so hot. Um, Look, we in India tend to wait for the government to do something, for the associations to do something. कि कोई ऊपर से आके कुछ बोलेगा. Individually, we have more power. And I, for one, preach wherever I can on the advantage of using your own bottle. I mean, I carry it where I go. I have something called a life straw, which is the Rolls Royce of filtration bottles, and I preach wherever I can. Um, but I think we within our industry don't talk about it. Uh, Nitin is very fortunate to work with a very evolved tourism board. I mean, I've always admired Thailand for years. They for me lead the pack in Asia. Um, our associations, I mean, if they could use more flex, they would use more flex. You know, I think we together need to have the conversation. I mean, this is the first conversation, Raghav, I've had about sustainability in India. And I know you do a lot of good work within the event space. The bottom line is, it's not a conversation that's very broad. I've never had a client, and I have all my clients are international coming in, few going out, but international coming in. I've never had a client ask me about sustainability. In my entire career, I have done only one CSR project. So it's a trending subject. It's a very sexy subject. Globally, every IMX, every IBTM, every site event wants to talk about this. They want to talk about DEI, but actions speak louder than words. And I don't want to wait for associations to do this. I mean, this is a start with 3 people plus you. Expand the conversation. We need to have conversations domestically. I mean, I just learned something from Naveen on fabric. So I'm going to call him after this to understand that a little bit more. If we share that knowledge, it helps everybody. It's not about keeping it competitive intelligence. It's not about keeping it that this is my proprietary information. These things we need to share because we learn from each other. I mean, Thailand should come into India and do a presentation for us on what they did. Nitin, take that back. We would love to have all, call it IATA, call it ICPB, call it site, and have a session with them so that we can learn, because we have nobody teaching us here. So Raghav, is it too late? No. Are we late? Yes. Can we catch up? Absolutely.
Okay. And moving on, to all our speakers here, I would like to address this question. What, according to you, are some of the actionable priorities? What are some of the measures that we can implement slowly that can make an impact and create a difference in the place we are working, in the industry we are working? Nitin, we can start with you.
I think the most important thing is we need to, as you have rightly started this forum, I think, and Mr. Kohli is absolutely right. This conversation has to be expanded, not to just this meeting room here. I think it has to be a larger conversation, and I think education will lead the way for this, and sharing, knowledge on how people have achieved it. Like we have a lot to learn from Thailand, of course, but we have a lot to learn from China as well. China had a very similar situation many years back. They had polluted cities, just like what we have at this point of time. And I think they did a lot of work. And, as part of Site Asia Pacific Alliance that we did within the chapters in Asia Pacific, there's a lot of knowledge to be shared. We have one session coming in tomorrow, but I think that's where we will take this opportunity to expand this conversation and also involve you to actually, broadcast the whole conversation to the whole, readership of Exhibition Showcase. And we will invite people from China, we will invite people from Thailand and from Australia, because all of the three destinations are very mature, in the sustainability subject, and their governments and their private sector has done a lot, and still, I mean, they have, I would say, created policies which we can learn very quickly and adopt very quickly. Not at, even if it's not adopted immediately at the government level, as Mr. Cody rightly mentioned, I think we as individuals have a lot of power, and of course, the network that we have has a lot of power, and if we can exchange information, that would be the first step. And then, of course, with that information transfer, the knowledge transfer, I think if India can adopt, some of the solutions where, innovations like carbon neutral venues, smarter waste management systems, better food management systems, and maybe some technology driven sustainable, I would say, tools and pieces which can help, meeting planners, convention organizers, and exhibition organizers to, adopt this faster than, doing a lot of work manually, to be honest. And I think, energy efficiency, there are so many sectors that can actually help us, because we have all of that culminated into, because we put everything together. I think every sector is working towards the sustainable practices, and if we can adopt from each sector what they bring, like for example, Naveen mentioned the cloth. This is one of the key aspects. Like, that is one thing that is definitely has to have for every event planner, non-negotiable. So I think if we can adopt these good practices by sharing it as education pieces, and then adopting it and then putting into practice, and then also again sharing that this is what, as an example in a case study, which will further enhance the education in the industry. I think that's how I see things taking forward.
Okay, Nitin, taking Thailand as an example here, the one which you have been quoting as one of the important players in this segment. When we see an event ecosystem, we see the role of the venue, we see the role of the organizer, then they have the service partners, and then there are the delegates. So all of these actually want the event to happen. Is there a difference in the mindset, how the Thailand service providers, how their Thailand industry is moving in this direction, or is it like governed by the government? They will impose penalty if certain ways the event is not implemented.
Raghav, it's a full circle, to be honest. The government has, identified moving to different, I mean, because Thailand is one of the destination which actually receives more inbound than outbound. And I think the government actually realizes this. And when they go to multiple forums overseas, and sustainability has been a hot topic for many years, they have actually taken into action and put budgets and policy framework around it. Once that happens, the government, when they create venue standards for green meetings and green venues, it is imposed by the government, and every private sector then wants to jump on that bandwagon and saying that I'm the green venue, because that's the trend. That's where the buyer is wanting to have it, and that's the trend case study that the government actually presents to the private sector. When the private sector adopts it, they start to promote it because they have already invested into it. So I think it's a effect that happens from the top, and then this whole circle start to move. And then when we represent or market Thailand as representatives for them, we actually push it in our campaigns that if you include a sustainable practice, you will get XYZ. And for that, we have 20 options that we give you, and this is what you can do, and these are the people who can help you implement, and this is the financial support, this is the non-financial support that we are going to offer you, or we can offer you a subsidized pricing for this particular angle because we want to promote it. So I think all of that comes into a circle, and it becomes a behavior then. So I think somebody has to kickstart. It does not necessarily have to be the government. I guess in our case, as I mentioned, side will definitely pick it up and really make some noise in partnership with you, and we'll take it forward from there.
Full. And talking about behavior, I think Mr. Kohli very, very rightly made a point that whenever he travels to forums, he carries his own water bottle. A small step in a change of an individual's behavior, I think, can create a very big impact. Mr. Kohli, what is your take? What all other aspects can be given priority to make our industry more environment friendly?
I think talking to each other is the first and biggest step. And I made a note, we need to start the conversation on a larger scale. I want to tell you what I've done. I mean, of course, in my company, we've eliminated all single-use plastic as much as we can, if energy efficient lighting. But one of the things I did, and during the pandemic, and now I have done a substantial amount of group business to the Maldives. And one of the things I did, I give every traveler a biodegradable cloth bag with a little note that talks about the fragility of the Maldives, talks about the Maldives' inability to process garbage because everything there goes on two garbage islands and that's it. And I tell them, please carry your own, please carry anything non-biodegradable back home. Okay, if people do it, I don't know, but it makes an impact. And I quite frankly learned this when I went 15 years ago to the Galapagos. I got on the cruise ship and they gave us all these cloth bags to take back our garbage. 5, 6 years ago, I was in Rwanda, and you want to see a country that understands sustainability and cleanliness. That by far, for me, was one of the best I have seen in my life. I landed in Kigali airport. We were on a site mission. A number of us were there. I had bought a box of chocolates in Brussels airport, and I was carrying in a plastic bag. They took away my plastic bag. We don't allow plastic bags into the country. Inspired. So the only way to get this conversation going is to inspire each other, to share good habits with each other. I mean, again, I said Naveen shared something with me today, which has given me an idea, and I made a note for myself. That is our biggest step forward. We don't need to wait for experts to come, for people to teach us. All of us grew up, and you all are a little younger to me, but we grew up when you never had plastic bags. Or anything you bought in the shops was in newspaper bags. Your Coca-Cola bottles, Campa-Cola bottles were recycled. It is the modernity which has brought in plastic waste. And I'm glad we see more and more young people being aware of this, and companies being aware, like a McDonald's, like retail, like malls. But yeah, we talk, and little actions sharing with each other will go a long way.
Thank you. Naveen, you have been implementing large-scale turnkey events, be it conferences for medical associations or for G20 events. How do you see the trend shaping up? What are some of the practical solutions apart from the fabric and the branding solution that we have just made a point about? Uh, is there a mandate, like Mr. Kohli said, that never in his experience, one or two times the client has mentioned the importance or the use of sustainability in his project. What is your take on this? Do the clients talk to you about sustainable measures? And what are the practical solutions according to you in this direction?
I would like to say this little differently. I would put it into two parts. One, where the client normally say, and as I said, there was a mandate from the government, and the entire thing was there was no flex, nothing. Even all the bags given were again a cloth bag or a jute bag during the high-profile events, because now we don't give any. And even there was a question even about the leather also, that whether we should use even leather bags also or not. And so these kinds of things is on one side. And on the other side, there are similar situations when a particular city does not allow something. Mr. Kohli gave an example of Ravada. I gave you example of Bangalore. In Bangalore is the first city in India, many years back, banned flex. When you do an event in Bangalore, you cannot use flex at all. Similar thing now, NDMC has also decided that you cannot use flex in the NDMC area. So these kinds of initiatives has been taken by certain places. I think besides awareness, we need to have these kinds of restrictions. And the local cities in India must start doing this. When Bangalore can do it, why can't others cannot do it? And the same client, when you give the quotation to them to do an event in Bangalore, they accept it because there is no choice. Yeah, because it is little expensive in India as of now. I'm sure it's a matter of time. In next few years, I think the cost will just mitigate and everything will be fine, exactly the same what it used to be many years back for this any new product which comes in, like simple example of our iPhones, when they launch it, the price is different. After 1 year, the price is different. After 2 years is different. I think same way it is going to happen. But when certain cities, when they put imposition, when they say it's not allowed, the same client ready to pay. So it's about awareness, it's about imposition. So we have to divide into two parts and see what is happening. A lot of technology is giving a lot of advantage to us. Like instead of using again this kind of a material which is not good, you can use, for example, digital signages. Those digital signages are reusable because you are just changing it and using it again and again rather than putting 10 things, 15 things at the venue. When I started many years back, that time things were very different. That time we don't have these kind of technologies. We don't have LEDs. We used to have projectors and all these things. People were hesitant at that time also, I remember, to use LEDs because they think, oh, it's very costly. But now I think who is using back projection or front projection? Hardly anyone. Very few in medical events. Everybody wanted LED. Now LED also have different sizes. So it evolves with the time because people got the advantage. People should know what is the advantage of this. And I think it's very important for us, our generation, to understand this. Because if we leave planet like this, it will be a disaster for the future generation. Because the way the work is going, see the situation of Delhi. There was an interesting article yesterday in Mint, if you have read it. They talk about, they were saying that people don't want to come to India because of pollution. People don't want to come to India because of XYZ reasons. So these are the critical things that we need to understand it. And it's very important that each of us, whether all these stakeholders, whether it is a DMC, or event company, hotel, transporter, everyone should understand the importance of this. It's a very serious subject. Paying little extra will save a lot of things for the future generation. That's what I would say.
Absolutely. I think we have had a very insightful discussion today, and our attendees and our delegates have learned a lot of good things from our esteemed speakers. Do leave your comments in the chat box below, network with each other, and raise more awareness about this important critical issue. If you have something to tell us, please mention it in the chat box, and we will definitely raise a voice on that. So, I would like to thank all our esteemed speakers, Mr. Nitin Sachdeva, Mr. Rajiv Kohli, and Mr. Naveen, for giving us time today, sharing their valuable insights. I think the most important takeaway for me has been that it has to start from us. And rather than thinking about a very short term and narrow approach, we have to think of a larger perspective, of a bigger picture, where in the next 5 to 10 years, when the younger generation will take the most of the activity, they will have something good to work on. They will have a good word of mouth for the previous generation, that was us. And with this thought, I would like to end this session. Thank you, gentlemen, for giving us time. And definitely in our next forum, I wish that this initiative would have sparked up a little more attention and more action on site. Thank you.